Yo, Nubs! What is going on? It's Arcturus here from Call of Dragons, and today I want to ask the question, do Elk Riders suck with the new G5 Cavalry? Now, the reason I ask this question is because if you look at Agnar's Warstomp skill, when he's leading melee cavalry and they trigger their Unyielding Rush, it allows them to deal damage to up to 3 targets as they rush in. And then, once they hit the target, they deal another instance of damage, plus they inflict the airborne debuff. Now, that's incredibly important because that allows you to deal damage 4 times and inflict a debuff, which is what Agnar and Freya and the Boolean Beast rely on, is triggering damage and triggering debuffs. So, the reason I'm asking, do Elk Riders suck, is because they don't get that ability. Instead, what they get is that whenever they trigger their Wild Barrage, they gain, for a certain period of time, 10% extra rage accumulation, as well as 10% extra attack. Now, that's incredibly powerful, and that's on par with other hero skills such as Urag, but it doesn't trigger damage or deal debuffs, which is what the heroes need. So I've done quite a bit of testing on this, and I'll show you the testing that I have. But first, let's explore why this is important. So, firstly, Agnar's 4th skill has a certain chance to give you Frostpack marks whenever you deal hero skill damage. So, that's an important factor. The next one is Freya. She has an ability where if you trigger hero skill damage 8 times, she will deal additional damage and inflict the Cowardice debuff. So that's incredibly powerful too. And then lastly, the Boolean Beast. The Boolean Beast can deal additional damage up to 8 times every time that you inflict a debuff or deal hero skill damage. So if you're missing out on those triggers, which you are with Elk Riders, then the question is, are you going to be able to get the full benefit from Agnar and Freya and the Boolean Beast? So, how do we determine if Elk Riders suck with the new G5 Cavalry? What I decided to do was to do a comparative test where I used 2 identical sets of legions, and I send them out to attack a set of Darklings. And I use identical setups, so the heroes are the same, the pets are the same, the artifact is the same, and the only difference is that one legion uses Elk Riders and the other one uses Eagles. And what I've done is I've repeated those tests multiple times, attacking the same Darkling with those troops, and recorded it. And I was just going to edit that and look at it myself, but what I found I thought was really quite interesting. So what I've done is I've attacked them all at the same time, and then spliced the videos together. So the start of each video looks at the exact moment that I begin attacking those Darklings, and then it stops at the moment when both of the Darkling archers have been killed. This leaves the troll behind, and if I don't kill the troll, the Darklings reset, and I can then proceed and repeat the test. So I'll show you the video now. It should be pretty self-explanatory. I've taken a bit of time to count up how many times the rage skills have been activated and how many times the Unyielding Rush has been activated, so you can compare them. And I've done the melee cavalry 3 times just because, you know, I'm not necessarily perfect with my Unyielding Rush. So let's jump into the video and see what happens, and then we'll speak about what we discovered. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we've just seen there. So the Elk Riders were indeed the first legion to defeat both of the Darkling Archers, but it was only by a couple of seconds, so it's really not a big difference there. A bigger difference is that the Elk Riders had 121,000 troops remaining at the end of that, whereas most of the other tests, you're looking at two tests where there were 137,000 Eagles left. One of those ones only had 123,000 Eagles left, so similar to the Elk Riders, but a little bit higher. So it suggests to me that the Eagles probably survive a little bit longer. It might be because during the unyielding rush, your damage taken is reduced, so that might be explaining why Eagles have a bit better survivability. The reason why the Elk Riders are defeating the Darklings first, I think, is related to their ability to deal 100% counterattack damage to ranged units. So I think that's what we're seeing here. But what the conclusions of this show me is that with pretty good unyielding rush micro, and compared to just Elk Riders doing their normal thing, Eagles are slightly better. They're about 10 or 15% better in terms of severely wounded or troops lost. So I do think there is a slight advantage to Eagles. Is it enormous? It's not necessarily enormous, but I think it would be noticeable. And I think if I did change factions and repeat this test with melee cavalry, then I think you would really start to notice a big difference. The other factor is I'm using pretty low-level heroes. I've got no talents on these heroes. I've got a very low-level 0-star pet skill. So I think if you ramp this up and the pet skills and the hero skills really start having a bigger impact relative to the normal attacks and the counter attacks, etc., I think you're going to start seeing the difference here magnify. So I still would argue that, you know, Elk Riders should probably be modified so they at least deal the same number of instances of damage as the melee cavalry version. That is, you know, when you unyielding rush, you gain 3 instances of damage, and then when you hit the target, you get an instance of damage plus a debuff. So I think it would be fair if Elk Riders were able to trigger that, you know, 4 times of damage and 1 debuff. It doesn't have to be a strong debuff or a strong amount of damage. It just needs to be something so that Elk Riders can have the same number of chances to trigger Agnar's skills and Freya's skills and the Bullion Beast talent skill, because right now I think these tests show that those mechanics aren't really working the same between Elk Riders and Eagles. And then I think if you extend these tests to regular ground cavalry like Knights and Wolf Riders, and then you also look at fully awakened heroes plus a completely maxed out Bullion Beast, then I think these differences are going to be magnified. And it just doesn't need to be that way. I think this skill could be simplified. Guns' words were, you know, man, this skill has a lot of words. It's complicated, and Elk Riders probably aren't going to appreciate it as much. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts and ideas and opinions and observations on this issue. I'd love to know what you guys think. If you think there are things that could be done to improve the balance between Elk Riders and melee cavalry, please leave your comments down below in the comment section. But yeah, look, that's all we have time for today, unfortunately, in this video. So I really appreciate that you guys took the time to watch with me and share your ideas. So I look forward to the next video with you. So until then, take it easy, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.